Hey guys, I just wanted to give you a bit more information on active transport in relation to the sodium-potassium pump that we talked about in class on Monday. So the first thing to know about active transport is that it requires energy. Energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate, also known as ATP. Here's a picture of ATP. You have an adenine, also found in DNA and RNA. Then this ribose sugar, which is a carbohydrate. And then 3 phosphate groups lined up in a row. Okay? So this is made by the mitochondria. And when ATP loses one phosphate group, it becomes ADP, which means adenosine diphosphate. So all you have left are 2 phosphate groups instead of 3. Di meaning 2, tri meaning 3. So 3 phosphate groups in triphosphate, 2 phosphate groups in diphosphate. So something called phosphorylation happens when ATP gives a phosphate group to a protein and becomes ADP. Phosphorylation. ATP gives a phosphate group to a protein and becomes ADP. Phosphorylation can happen other ways. We will talk about that in the future. But for this specific conversation, it is when ATP gives away one of these phosphate groups and becomes ADP. So here are the steps of the sodium-potassium pump. First, these 3 sodiums, or 3 Pol Nas, bind to the sodium-potassium pump because this pump is faced towards the cytoplasm where the sodium is, and it is receptive to these sodiums. Once those have attached, it triggers this spot here to stimulate a phosphorylation event. The protein wants a phosphate group, so it calls ATP to come bring it a phosphate group. When the protein gets the phosphate group, there's no more ATP, there's only ADP. So the ADP goes away, and the attachment of this phosphate group makes the sodium-potassium pump switch directions, makes a new conformation. So a conformation is the change in shape. So it changes shape to go out, and part of this releases the sodium into the extracellular fluid, so outside of the cells. Now that those have disappeared, the shape, if you notice from here to here, the shape is different. Here it's a circular shape, and here it's an ovular shape. And on this side, it's a small triangle, and this one's a right angle triangle. That's not specifically what it looks like in real life, but to show you how it can change, that's the shapes they use. So now that it's open and the sodium has left, this side now conforms to fit potassium, 2 potassiums. The binding of the potassium triggers the phosphate to leave, causing the protein to switch conformations again, facing the inside of the cell. And then the potassium can be released into the cell. This cycle repeats as much as possible against a gradient. But a big important thing is that it needs energy in order to function. Here are 3 different GIFs to show you. I don't know which one will work best for you. This is the one that's most obvious to the picture. But as you can see here, it attaches, the phosphate attaches, the phosphate releases when the potassium attaches. This one's a bit slower and clearly shows you ATP switching to ADP. And this is Drake being the transport protein along the cell wall. It has 2 lines there, or not the cell wall, the cell membrane. It has 2 lines there to be the 2 layers of lipids. Anyway, that is it.